What makes people decide to do something? What makes them decide to pick up a crochet needle or a guitar, or to decide to practice wrestling, or to pick up a tattoo needle, or whatever passion or hobby that they have to be? What makes somebody decide to pursue these things? This is why I decide to go out and ask people about their passions, about their dreams, and the journey that it took to end up getting there. Some people don't even know the reason why they end up doing these things. They just end up doing them because they have extra time on their hands and there's nothing better to do. And then next thing you know, bam, scorch, pow. You're on the cover of the Rolling Stone and you're being invited to tour Canada by the Kings of Leon, a band that influenced you from the start of your own band. Take, for example, my guest today, multiple Juno Award winning, multiple Casby Award winning, a band that has been certified both platinum and gold in Canada. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada's The Sheepdogs. The Sheepdogs were started in 2004 by founding members Ewan, Ryan, and Sam. And at the time, it was Sam's first experience playing drums and Ryan's first experience playing the bass. Sure, they had played music on different instruments before, but to start out something new and to make something out of it, it doesn't always happen. I mean, you can look in rock and roll's history and you can find bands like the Ramones who just picked up their instruments and decided to start creating music and did. But a lot of the time, it takes a lot of time and passion and drive. But 14 years later, thousands of album sales later, thousands of shows later, touring with the likes of the Black Keys, playing on shows like Bonnaroo, and working with Jimmy Fallon. You never know where these decisions are going to take you. Sometimes a passion or a hobby can become a career, and that's an amazing, incredible thing. Why can't somebody like the Sheepdogs do exactly something like that? They kind of did in a way. Starting out as something that was just a way to pass time when there was nothing better to do, it became so much more. And you're going to hear about that story as I talk with the Sheepdogs drummer, Sam Corbett, about the history of the band. And we're going to talk about all these experiences. Being on the cover of the Rolling Stone, winning Juno Awards, touring with John Fogerty. We're going to discuss all these things all up into their new album, Changing Colors, which has seen a very nice change for the band. And you're going to hear that as I'm going to play 2 tracks for you during this show, as you know we always do. Thank you for joining me here. This is episode 19 with Sam Corbett, drummer of Juno Award-winning The Sheepdogs. I am your host and a parent, social speaker now, and MC and announcer, as I just found out today. I know, surprise, talking in front of a microphone can apparently become more than just a hobby. So, as you know, before we get into our interview with the Sheepdogs and how they got started and how they followed their passions to where they are right now, to this new album, Changing Colors, we're going to play you a song off of Changing Colors. And I hope you have a little bit of a gap to fill, because the soaring guitars of There's a Hole Where My Heart Should Be might just fill that.
I said, wait, I'm a part-time lover and an all-around guy. You got to know, I got the late night magic and perpetual high. It's alright, I got to keep on moving so I never run dry. You wanna go? Say if you dig me, baby, won't you give me a try? Well, if the mood ain't exactly right, I got to spread my wings and take flight.
Desert Tiger Podcast.
Of the Sheepdogs.
How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going pretty awesome, I must say. I mean, I got to talk to a Juno winning artist this morning, so I'm very excited. How are you?
I'm doing quite well.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So, you are the drummer in the Sheepdogs. This is correct?
That's right. You got it.
All right, awesome. So, how did you end up how did the guys end up meeting? How did the Sheepdogs get its start?
Well, I sort of knew Ryan and Ewan. So Ewan's lead singer, guitarist, Ryan's bass player. I sort of knew them in high school a little bit through a mutual friend of ours, and we would hang out at parties sometimes, but we hadn't started the band yet. And then sort of in a year or two after high school, we started thinking, we were all going to university, but we started thinking that we didn't really know what we wanted to do. We weren't really getting a lot of satisfaction from going to school. So actually what ended up happening is I was kind of mulling the idea over of renting a drum kit. Because I'd never played drums before.
Okay.
And so just kind of on a whim, I went and got one. And it turns out that same day, basically, Ryan got fired from his job at Blockbuster. So we got the last laugh there, right?
Yeah.
And Ewan actually got dumped by his sort of long-term girlfriend. So they both had a lot of extra time on their hands, and I had this drum kit. So that very day, they came over. Ryan borrowed my old bass guitar, and Ewan brought his new guitar, and we started the band that very day. That was, let me think, it was 2004.
Okay.
And been a band ever since.
Oh, wow, that's pretty amazing. So you started playing drums basically right around that day then?
Yeah. I had, I played other instruments growing up. I took piano lessons when I was a kid. I played, saxophone in band and stuff like that. And I played a little bass guitar, but I never really had a strong desire to play the drums until, kind of leading up to that time in the year. I was just listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin, go figure, right? And basically...
A lot of John Bonham, eh?
Loving John Bonham, and basically started thinking, God, playing the drums would be just, the coolest thing. And so I was kind of, desire was building up inside me. I finally went and got the kit, and then we started the band. It's we always joke that it's the only band we've really ever been in, and it's kind of funny the way it played out, but it was definitely very meager beginnings, or we were just kind of screwing around, right? We didn't know what it was going to turn into.
Was that also Ryan's first time touching the bass?
Yeah, more or less. He had played guitar before.
Yeah.
But, so it's sort of similar, and Ewan wasn't super experienced at guitar. I think he had taken acoustic guitar in high school, and he had just bought that electric guitar maybe 6 months before then. So we were all pretty green.
Yeah, no doubt.
But that was good that we were actually all learning our instruments at the same time. And if there had been two guys who were experienced and one guy who wasn't, then the dynamic wouldn't quite have worked out, I don't think.
Yeah, no, you guys kind of were able to grow together, which definitely kind of helps your dynamic as a group, I would feel.
Yeah, absolutely. We started off with sort of very basic stuff, just trying to play White Stripes or Black Keys songs or something like that. And then we got, sort of more ambitious, trying to learn harder and harder material and, adding more stuff. Ewan would sing right from the get-go, but, eventually we started adding the harmonies and stuff like that. And then, we just tried to always expand our tastes, and then, try and learn more. And it just worked out that we were all kind of at the same level and grew together.
Huh, that is fantastic. So within 2 years, you guys were already ready to record your first EP then? That's pretty crazy.
I don't know if we were actually ready, but we did record it anyway. we just spent a lot of time like we always joke, there was like a month that we literally jammed every single day. Like I said, we didn't have a whole lot else going on in our lives. So we just like played in my parents' basements, for about, I think like 9 months before we even played our first show.
Oh, wow.
Which, ended up being like a battle of bands type of competition that we actually ended up winning our night, which is, we felt like it was destiny at the time or something.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so like we, at that time we were playing like kind of a mix of covers and originals, and we had some originals that like some early ones that were pretty rough. And then we started to, just write more and more songs. Ewan is a very like prolific songwriter, and he always has been, ever since we started the band. He's always had lots of ideas to bring in and stuff. So, we started with that EP, but basically as soon as we were done recording it, we realized that we wanted to, because it takes a long time to record, especially when you're pretty new at the whole process. So by the time we were recording and released that EP, we already had a bunch of new songs that we wanted to record and release. And that's kind of the way we've been for a lot of our careers. We've always wanted to work on a lot of new material and put out as much new material as we possibly could.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys were known as the Breaks back then, right?
That's right. I can't remember how we got into that name. I think we just thought it sounded cool.
Okay.
But we ended up looking up, and there was like 10 different bands, different other bands, online with the name The Breaks, or there was a band called like Breaks or something like that. So
trying to tour under that name would be.
Yeah, we just figured it was like maybe a little too generic or something. So
it's
we kind of mulled it over and like. Yeah,
it would have been difficult.
We and we had spent so much time trying to come up with that name that we were kind of exhausted with the whole idea. So we just basically picked the Sheepdogs on a total whim. Like there's not really any kind of deep significance behind it. Although, one of the most frequent questions we get asked. Well, yeah, actually, it's kind of before we had the beards and long hair and stuff. So it's like we almost kind of grew into our name somehow. I was going to say, like, we get asked all the time, how'd you guys get your name? And we don't really have a good story. We basically just picked it because we thought it would work. No real meaning behind it, but sometimes we make up answers,
just for the hell of it.
Yeah, pretty much, just because we get, like, that's literally the question we get asked more than anything. Mm-hmm. And we feel like we got to make up a good story since there isn't one.
All right, so, but when you guys became the Sheepdogs, you guys had another guitarist join the group, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So Leah is from Prince Albert, so it's like an hour and a half north of Saskatoon. And so we didn't really know him growing up, but we met him just at a party, and we were really into the Kings of Leon's first couple albums at that time, and he was also into those same records, and so just kind of hit it off, and then so we brought him into the fold.
Okay, vibe was right, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then you guys ended up, I was gonna ask this earlier, I forgot to. You guys self-recorded your first EP, right?
Well, the first EP was with sort of a friend of ours in town who's he's sort of more of like our parents' age, but he became a good friend of ours and stuff. So we recorded our first EP and our first couple albums with him, and then when it came to Learn and Burn, we sort of we didn't really have very much money to pay for recording, and Ryan was sort of staying in this friend's apartment, like this friend of ours who had sort of turned his apartment into a little bit of a home studio. He sublet his place to Ryan while he was on the road.
Okay.
And so we figured, like, let's just save some money, be able to take our time and to record Learn and Burn. So that was the first one that was sort of self-recorded, although, the earlier ones, it's not like we were working with some kind of big name producer. He was just sort of a friend of ours who was a lot more experienced with studio stuff than we were at the time. Yeah,
so he kind of showed you the ropes, and then you guys just sort of went from there.
Yeah, exactly. Like we'd always we take every kind of recording experience as a learning experience. So
yeah, definitely. It's growing.
We definitely learned a lot from him, and some stuff we wanted to do to keep, and some ideas that we didn't want to keep, some stuff that we realized didn't work for us. But as a young band, it's hard to totally realize what you want to be and what is going to work for you. So,
it definitely is.
Learning experience for sure.
You're trying to figure out what you want to be while trying to break inside of your small market and break outside of it, and it's difficult.
Yeah, and like, sometimes you have a pretty strong feeling about what you want to do, but the type of music we were playing was certainly not like the most successful type of music. I guess there was sort of, at that time in the mid 2000s, there was a bit of like a kind of a rock revival thing, but it was a little bit more garagey, I guess, whereas we were a bit more,
the
like
classic
kind of
rock revival took
guitar
a little
solos.
bit longer.
Yeah, and it still was not like it was the top of the charts or anything like that. So, we always felt that. Yeah, like we always felt like the type of stuff that we were doing was good, but we definitely, and people, we would play these small shows when we were traveling, and people who were there seemed to like it, but it was hard for us to get any traction because it's not like it was the hip sound or anything like that at the time.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys in 2011, after releasing Learn and Burn, ended up taking a trip to LA, which you thought was going to be your big moment.
Yeah, that was sort of like, it was set up through Sask Music, so we got like a grant to basically go down there and showcase, like, basically what it was is us and our buddy band, the Deep Dark Woods, went down.
Oh, nice.
And played, yeah, they're great, and they're really good friends of ours and stuff, and were at the time as well. So we went down, and we didn't exactly know what it was going to be like, but it was our first time in LA, and it ended up, we sort of played like 3 songs to a lunch crowd of, I guess it was supposedly like industry types. I think it was supposed to be a lot of people for like placements and stuff like that. Like as far as, TV and maybe commercials and stuff. Okay. It ended up, it was a good experience for us. Just, as a learning experience, but absolutely nothing came out of it. Right.
Right.
It was, at the time it was pretty discouraging. We felt like, leading up to that, like all we needed was to get in front of the right people and to play our music, and that would help our career. And then it sort of didn't really, help at all. So it was discouraging because we felt like that was the final step we needed, but it turned out we needed something else.
Yeah. Oddly enough though, you guys ended up meeting a manager out in Toronto. I'm not sure if he was your manager or not, but he ended up sort of leading to your own Dr. Hook moment.
Yeah, that's right. Like we sort of met, we went over to a friend's house, this guy, Jeff Leake, who runs like the Sirius XM radio Verge, and he was always kind of an early supporter of us.
Nice.
And I can't remember how we got in touch with him, but he just liked our music, and so he invited us over for like a barbecue one time, and there's this other guy there, this guy named Joel Carrier, who is our manager still, and he wasn't our manager then. And so our friend Jeff just basically set up this meeting to introduce us, because Joel he wasn't super aware of us, and we kind of had heard of him, but we weren't in touch with a lot of management or anything. We didn't have a lot of interest from much management at that time. So we just kind of hung out, and it was like very casual, but it was the start of a relationship that, proved very fruitful for us, because he was the one, he had been in contact with Atlantic in the States, and that was the label that was involved with the Rolling Stone contest that you're sort of referring to. Yeah. Cause the prize was you got on the cover of the Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
And then you also got a contract with Atlantic, right?
Yeah.
So he had these contacts with Atlantic, and they just sort of asked him, do you have any bands? They were just kind of putting out feelers, everywhere within the music industry. So they asked him, do you have any band that's unsigned that you think would be good for this project? And they didn't really, I think they were kind of vague to him with what it was exactly. And he didn't really tell us what it was. He just told us that he had submitted our name for this thing that he said, if it happens, it would be huge, but I can't really tell you what it is. And we're like, okay, well, that sounds good, but we, obviously it's very vague. And then so we found out a couple months later that it's like, oh, the deal is it's going to be in this contest to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. And, so we found out, that we were going to be one of 16 bands, which was very exciting. Obviously, it was the biggest thing that had ever happened to us, just to even be mentioned in Rolling Stone and to be one of the 16 bands of the contest. So initially, we were just kind of happy to be there. Like, it was obviously the biggest thing for us at the time. But then once we got into the contest and we listened to the other bands, we started thinking, and then, we did this thing where we flew to New York and you do these photos and videos and stuff like that, and you play live in front of these judges. Once we started doing that, we started thinking, like, I wonder if there's a chance that we could actually win this contest, because, we were sizing up the competition and we felt like we were as good as any of these bands. So
yeah, definitely. And you have to be able to believe in your product if you're going to be competing in something like that, especially if it's leading to opportunities like playing on the Jimmy Fallon show and playing on festivals like Bonnaroo. Like, those were happening before you even won the contest, right?
Yeah, that was part of like making it to the top 2, right? So it kind of went from like 16 to 8. It was like a March Madness type bracket, like 16 to 8, 4 to 2. Yeah. And so once we made the top 2, part of the deal was you got to play a set at Bonnaroo. I think we only played for about 25 minutes, but still,
that's still
part of the prize
amazing.
for us was just getting tickets to the festival, right? And we got to see,
right.
Like, I can't remember who was all playing that year. Black Keys,
sure.
Who
are a huge influence
My Morning
to
Jacket. Oh, for sure. There was like a reunited Buffalo Springfield at that year. There was a bunch of stuff. I'm kind of getting confused in my mind with the other year we played at Bonnaroo, but yeah, it was obviously a huge festival. We'd never been a part of anything close to that. And then the other sort of prize for getting into the top 2 was that you got to play on Jimmy Fallon, but there was sort of a catch to that, which was that he did this thing where he would get his band to write a song about an audience member. I guess it was a running bit of his at the time. Maybe it still is. Yeah. But so the catch was that they pulled a random audience member and we had to write a song about her. We had about 20 minutes to do it. And then we were going and playing on, it's not live, it's taped in the afternoon, but you only got one shot at it, right?
Yeah, definitely. So you don't want to mess up.
Yeah, exactly. So we're playing and, whatever. And we understand that there's probably going to be about 1 million people watching this later that very night, right? And I'm playing drums. I look over and I see like Questlove is like looking directly at me, and it's kind of funny. I don't know. No pressure now, right? So
definitely.
But we ended up winning that. Like basically the audience voted as to which song they liked best, and they liked ours. So we felt pretty good about that, and felt good about our chances of winning the final, as it were.
Yeah.
And then we did. So
that's fantastic. So then when you finally did end up on the cover of the Rolling Stone, how quickly did you cop that issue?
Luckily I had my mom to buy about 35 copies for me. I didn't actually, I guess the song goes that you're supposed to buy 5 copies for your mother, but she bought like about 50. I don't think I actually bought a copy. I don't know. It was very overwhelming at the time, and we were basically just like running around playing a bunch of shows and trying to, strike while the iron was hot. And I can honestly say that I did not buy an issue for myself, but we probably got some free ones, and I know my mom bought a bunch.
Well, as long as you have one around, that's what matters, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I have one. I don't know. It's going to sound like I'm not appreciative or something, but I don't think I have one in my house right now. But like I said, I know my mom has a bunch of her.
I'm sure your mom has a copy waiting for you somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So this actually ended up leading to some pretty good opportunities for you guys. You ended up signing with Atlantic. Like, your album ended up charting 14th on the Canadian charts, which is amazing. And ended up going platinum.
Like that's something I think we feel pretty fortunate to have a platinum selling album, because I don't think that's happening again for us or maybe any artist, right? Like obviously,
well, that's it. Is in
the
Canada
years between now,
80,000 records.
Like album sales. Yeah, I think they're going to have to drop that down because I think it's very difficult to sell those kind of numbers anymore in Canada or anywhere really because of Spotify and stuff like that. So
Agreed.
I mean, that's definitely something we're very appreciative that we did hit that number. But yeah, you're right. Like a bunch of opportunities popped up. Like I said, being on Atlantic was part of the contest, and then the guy who ended up writing our cover article was his name's Austin Skaggs. He's Boz Skaggs' son, actually.
What?
He's he's
cool.
friends with yeah, definitely. He's friends with like Kings of Leon and the Black Keys and stuff like that. So that led to a couple of cool opportunities for us then, because he basically played our music for the Kings of Leon, and they had an upcoming Canadian tour.
Yeah.
An arena tour. And he said, you should think about having these guys open for you. And I said, sure, because they liked our songs from that. And as I mentioned before, we had been huge fans of them, when we first started. So that was a real honor for us. And obviously playing arenas as an opening band. But that was a huge deal for us at the time. And then because he was friends with the Black Keys, he was the one that sort of hooked us up with Pat Carney, who ended up producing our next record, our self-titled record.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, not only to be handpicked by a band that influenced you, but to be able to share the stage with them on stadiums and then be able to record with another member of a band that also influenced you guys must have just been huge for you.
It was very surreal. Like it felt pretty crazy at the time. We would also, another thing that, like I mentioned, Austin Skaggs would set up for us is they did this, he put on a Petty Fest in New York. So it's like a tribute to Tom Petty, where they would just have a bunch of celebrities basically sing these Tom Petty songs with a backing band. But then we came in and just played a song, I think we covered Breakdown, but we were one of the only full bands to actually play. But so, we're hanging around backstage at this thing, and there's all kinds of Michael Cera and people from Saturday Night Live and, like I said, Kings of Leon, members of the Strokes, members of the Black Keys and stuff like that. It felt weird. It's like, wow, we're from Saskatoon, and it was like, 6 months before that we had literally no success to speak of, and nobody had heard of us, and now we're in this hanging out in New York at this celebrity tribute. It felt pretty crazy.
Yeah, and suddenly to be the only full band to be playing that event, hanging out with all those people, that is a huge jump.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And it was a pretty interesting experience. And I mean, at the time, like I said, it just felt very surreal. And I wish I'd maybe while it was going on, I had a little bit better perspective and appreciated it a little bit more. But the other thing that was going on is that we were just so incredibly busy because we realized
you're trying to keep it going, right?
Yeah, we realized that the contest was a great thing, and it brought a lot of attention on us. But we very quickly realized, even before we had won, that we couldn't rest on that, and that we didn't want to be known as this contest-winning band, right? Because, think of how many American Idol winners have successful careers? Not very many.
Not many at all.
Much bigger spotlight. Yeah,
exactly.
So we realized that that's why we wanted to, while it was going on, we're basically doing stuff in New York during the week, like photo shoots for the contest or, videos or recording songs for the contest. And then all weekend we're playing different festivals. We play 3 festival shows, one in Victoria, one in Halifax, and then one in, Montreal or something like that. So we'd be jumping across the, Canada, playing shows and then be busy during the week. So it was just a very hectic time. And, because of that, maybe we didn't fully appreciate how amazing it was. And, we didn't have the best perspective, but certainly looking back on it now, it seems pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I can understand how it would be hard to appreciate it during that moment when you're so busy trying to hit the iron while it's hot.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did Patrick Carney, did he help with the songwriting or anything at all? Like, did he help like with the growth of the band, working with him?
Well, sort of more like arrangement type of stuff. Like he didn't, Ewan always writes sort of like the melody, the lyrics, and
Definitely.
like the chords and stuff like that. But sometimes he would have, back to when we weren't working with a producer or anything, sometimes he would bring a song in and he'd have a very clear idea of what he wanted it to sound like and the arrangement to be like. He'd know what he wanted the drums to be, and that's fine. I don't mind doing that. But other times he would have just a very rough idea.
Yeah.
And, we would kind of, sketch it out and shape it together. So I think for that album when we worked with Pat, like there was a lot of, sort of like changing of arrangements and stuff like that to sort of fit a certain mold. And, that's good in a lot of ways because we learned a lot of tricks as far as, like he'd been working with, Danger Mouse and stuff like that and had very successful records. So it was good to get that kind of input as to what, sort of works for mainstream rock or what works for being on the radio and stuff like that. At the same time, we felt maybe a little constricted because we really wanted to, we just like having weird elements to our music as well, right? Like we like guitar solos, and we like lots of vocal harmonies and stuff like that, and we like
there's a lot of melodies.
Yeah,
there's a lot of melodies in it, and they flow really nicely.
Yeah, and we just like having a lot of different kind of elements to our music, a lot of different influences. So you don't want to be too, samey in your songs and stuff like that. So we like I said with other recording experiences, we just took, that as a learning experience and took stuff that we liked and kept it, and then other stuff that maybe we didn't like, tossed aside.
Hey, that's fair enough.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
My sweet baby, break those plans. Don't say maybe, it's good to feel alive and waste away your time. Close your eyes, my sweet baby, it's a crazy time. It won't change me, try to understand. I'm a complicated man, a diamond in your hand. Downtown, what's that sound? A million people running on the road. Head back, keep it black, but keep all my money in a paper bag. Tonight, come on baby, wonder why you can't save me, try to understand. I'm a complicated man, you try and split the band tonight. Downtown, what's that sound? A million people running on the front. Head back, keep it black, I keep all my money in a paper bag.
Pomeranians eating their own waste. What are you gonna write about next, Mick Foley? Oh, the song's done? Well, this is a little awkward, but I guess you guys caught me in the middle of listening to an audiobook on Audible. I was listening to Countdown to Lockdown by Mick Foley, not only a New York Times best-selling author, but also a fantastic storied wrestler who has a lot of amazing stories to tell. And you can hear those stories and as well as many other amazing books. If you go to audible.com/DTP, you can get a free month trial of Audible and a free audiobook, like Countdown to Lockdown, or whatever else you may be into. Whether you're into self-help, nonfiction, science fiction, fantasy, whatever you're in, audible.com has tons, thousands on thousands of different audiobooks for you to enjoy. So one more time, that is www.audible.com/DTP for a 1 free month trial of Audible and 1 free audiobook. What is there to lose when it's all free? Without further ado, we should probably get back to our interview.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
Alright, before I get a little too far away from Learn and Burn, I want to talk a little bit about the Junos you guys ended up winning and the Casbys you guys ended up winning for that album. Like, how was that for your guys' career?
Well, we always joke, like, so when we heard that we were nominated for Junos, I don't know if we thought we had much of a good chance of winning them.
Yeah, definitely.
And at the same time as the show, just given our past experience. Mm-hmm. And so the show was, I don't know, say it was the beginning of April of that year. But we had an offer to go tour in Australia, opening up for John Fogerty.
Which,
that was during the same time.
That?
Well, exactly. And we actually, I think Fogerty had worked on something with Pat Carney, so I think that's how we got that opportunity.
Oh, wow.
But, we had never been to a Junos before, and so we weren't sure if we were ever going to be nominated again. So, it was a little disappointing that we couldn't go, but at the same time, that tour in Australia was amazing, and we're very glad that we got that opportunity and that we took it. Mm-hmm. But, what ended up happening is I woke up in the morning and I found out that we had won the one that was presented on the Saturday night, and then we woke up the next morning and we found that we had won both of ours that were presented on the Sunday night. So it was pretty cool. We always joked
you guys
that
ended up
because later on, when we were nominated for a couple Junos for our next album, and we did go to the ceremony, we lost them all. So we like to joke that if we're ever nominated for some again, that we're not going to go because we only win if we don't go.
Well, hopefully Changing Colors gets you a couple nominations so you can accept a tour with somebody else and
yeah, exactly.
take home
we have to think of some excuse to not go.
Exactly. Just
then,
too busy.
Then we'll clean up.
But yeah, you guys cleaned up Best New Group Single of the Year for I Don't Know, which has also been on a couple of commercials and a few things. And you all guys also took home Rock Album of the Year in 2012. Like, that's stellar.
Yeah. The next time we were nominated in that category, we lost Rock Album of the Year to Rush or something like that. So obviously there's been some pretty heavy hitters who've won that.
Yeah, exactly.
And Single of the Year
losing
is
to Rush.
Yeah. Single of the Year
Rush
is pretty crazy.
Not bad.
Yeah, exactly. When I think back on it, I think Single of the Year is probably the craziest one. Just because, I don't know, you'd expect that to go to something like Justin Bieber or The Weeknd or something like that. To think that we won one of those is pretty crazy. Yeah.
And for a band from Saskatoon to take home Single of the Year that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then later on we ended up winning one for Video of the Year, but we didn't have, we weren't even in the video. It was just puppets in the video. So, I still have it, but it doesn't feel quite as well earned.
Of course, somehow, if you're gonna win, somehow you're still not fully involved in it, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Following that key. And then you guys ended up getting gold on your self-titled record, plus 2 gold singles.
Yeah, like I said, it was back before Spotify completely cratered the ability to sell music and people buying music. I'm just kidding a little bit, but it was pretty crazy. Like for Learn and Burn to go, gold or platinum, whatever. I think it ended up going platinum. Like we made that
Learn and
album
Burn's platinum.
That was the one we recorded ourselves, and we sort of like our goal was to print 1,000 copies and hopefully sell those ones. Like that was probably our goal when we first started out, because if we could get a second run of that record, we probably would have been happy. That like as our initial goal setting out. So for it to sell 80,000, obviously pretty exciting.
Yeah, it kind of takes your expectations and knocks them way, way out of the park.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay, in 2013, you guys had the opportunity given to you by CBC to be flown to Memphis to record a couple Elvis Presley songs as well as a couple of your own songs. What was that like for you guys, being able to do that?
It was pretty exciting. Like, obviously there's a lot of rich musical history in Memphis. Yeah. Sun Studios was, like there's a photo in Sun Studios of the $1 Million Quartet, right? Which is Elvis, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, and Jerry Lee Lewis. Mm-hmm. And like there's a photo of them standing around a piano. We ended up kind of tongue-in-cheek recreating that photo.
That's awesome.
It was a really cool experience. And one of the cool things about it is that they let us sort of do our thing with it. Like we did, I think we did 3 Elvis songs, and one of them was like a pretty straight up version of, like, it's pretty similar to the Elvis version. Another one was sort of different, and the third one was very different, right? And
so you guys sort of incorporated your sound, and then you fully incorporated your sound into it, sort of thing. Yeah.
It was also a nice challenge too, because we're recording, everything live off the floor, except for maybe we did do the vocals live off the floor too.
Okay.
I think we did actually. So, I mean, it was just another challenge for us. And we ended up meeting the engineer for that session. It was this guy, Matt Ross Fang, we ended up using him for our next album, Future Nostalgia.
Okay.
As the engineer for the whole album. So.
Yeah. So for Future Nostalgia, Liat Hansen actually ended up leaving, and you guys ended up taking on another member. So how did the band sound and writing process sort of shift through the member changes?
Well, I mean, Rusty was a very strong, like, backup singer, and he was a really good multi-instrumentalist. Like, he actually is very good playing any instrument. And so, and he'd been in a lot of different bands. He was a little older than us, so he brought a lot of experience. He'd done a lot of recording as well. So, he just brought a lot of different ideas to the table. And, he was a voice that we really respected, and an opinion that we took, his suggestions seriously, whether it was something, for the drums or the bass or a harmony or a songwriting thing, he was a good element to add for sure.
Okay. That's awesome. That's good that he could help. You guys also saw the change to Dynalone Records. How's working with those guys?
Well, like Joel, I mentioned, is our manager. He runs Bedlam Management. It was our management and Dynalone Records. So it was his company.
Okay.
So
nice.
It was, we were very familiar with the whole team and everything like that. With being on Atlantic, it was, obviously it was a pretty cool opportunity, but, they don't have a lot of bands like us. It's sort of more, I think, urban. Historically, they're, obviously have some of the greatest bands of all time, like Led Zeppelin and Crosby, Stills and Nash, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles and stuff.
But that's not what they're concentrating on now.
I don't think so. I mean, most record labels are not concentrating on the type of music we play, so that's
No,
understandable for sure.
And I feel like Dine Alone is definitely a better fit for that, since they definitely have carried a lot more of that style of music.
Hmm. Well, we just were, they're obviously very familiar with our style and our sound, and it just seemed like a natural fit for us at the time.
All right, so this around this time, you guys actually started to get in your songs played with some hockey. You guys, for the IHHF World Championships in 2015, Feeling Good was played for every single goal. Did you guys watch that at all? And, was it a little surreal?
Not a whole lot. We're actually not the hugest hockey fans. For a Canadian band, we probably, maybe a bit of a, I don't know. For whatever reason, we're not the hugest hockey fan. So, I mean, we definitely caught some clips. And it's still great, obviously, to have it be used. And, that was something we were thinking when we were recording Feeling Good, that it would suit a sports setting very well. We were definitely aware of that. But, we're happy. We're super happy it got used. And it got used for, it was like the victory song for the Blue Jays one year too. And,
Mm-hmm. And then I think it was used for the 2014 Winter Olympics as well, or at least one of your songs was.
Yeah, probably, maybe.
I know one of your songs was used.
Remember,
for the female hockey team's final wrap-up video. I know they used one of your songs.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, right on.
Yeah. So then, if you guys aren't very big hockey fans, you still ended up getting on the 125th Stanley Cup tribute. What was being involved with that like?
I don't know. It was a cool opportunity. Like we're pretty much game to do just about anything, So
yeah.
It was cool. It was just a fairly regular show for what we ended up doing. It wasn't super different, but we got to see the Stanley Cup up close. You're not allowed to touch it, right?
Right.
But, we were like a couple feet away from it. That was pretty cool.
Okay. So let's get into now the new album that you guys have coming out here, Changing Colors. How has the band's sound and approach changed during that? Because you guys have definitely embraced a lot more instrumentation and a little bit more of a softer sound.
Mm-hmm. So part of that would be we have a new guitarist now, it's Jimmy Boskill.
Okay.
He's got a very interesting story. He was sort of like a child prodigy guitar player. He'd been playing and touring, playing on TV and playing these huge shows and touring since he was basically 11, 12 or something like that.
Okay.
But so he's obviously a phenomenal guitar player, and he's a great singer. He would sing lead in his band. He's an awesome harmony singer as well. But so he kind of came in as a replacement for us, and he was just a great fit. Right from the get-go. One of the interesting things that he brings to the table, though, is he's an awesome multi-instrumentalist as far as any sort of country instruments. He's a great pedal steel player. He's great at banjo, fiddle, mandolin. He's a killer mandolin player. So he was able to help us add those kind of textures to the album, which definitely having the ability to add those types of things, it definitely affected the sound of the album. It's maybe a little bit more country, but that's, we've always loved country music, old country music.
Well, old country music,
and it's always been,
that's what it reminds me of, is old, bluesy country music before it got filled with pop, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's great stuff. Everybody loves that old country stuff. And, we'd always had a little kind of a subtle, influence of that kind of music. But
for sure.
To be able to have someone who's a real expert at playing that style, to have him on the record really, really helped out.
Definitely. I could definitely see how that would. Was there a specific reason why you guys decided to make that shift, or is that just sort of how the band naturally progressed?
I think it felt natural. We always are trying to add different elements to our music. We don't want to put out the same songs over and over again, just, in a different key
definitely.
or something like that, right? So I think that's something we've always been trying to do. There's also a bit more of a Latin flavor to some of these songs, which again has been like a subtle influence for us, but something we wanted to bring to the forefront. There's this really great album that we like by Stephen Stills. It's called Manassas, and it has all these sort of different sections where one is like more Latin influence, one is more country influence, and one is a little bit more straight ahead, one's more folk influence.
Definitely.
So I think we really admired something like that, like an album that's just basically able to tie in together all these different disparate influences into one cohesive sound. I think that's something we'd always wanted to do. And, at the same time, there are still... Yeah, exactly. At the same time, there are still some like pretty straight ahead rock songs, because we still like classic rock music.
Definitely. There is still.
We felt that we could blend in all these different things.
Like there is still like that classic Crosby, Stills, Nash feel to you guys for sure.
For sure, yeah. And that's something like we don't want to completely change, and we're not going to make like a jazz record or something like that with no rock influence, but. It's just part of our, say part of our evolution sounds a little pretentious, but I guess that's what it is.
Okay, and this actually saw the change back to you guys being in control of producing your own records again. Was there a reason you guys wanted to do that?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, we learned a lot from working with other producers, but I think working with producers is good. It gives you like some ideas that you never would have thought about. I think that we have a pretty clear idea of what we want to sound like, though. Like we're not striving to, to totally drastically change our sound. And I think we know kind of what we want to be. So I think that makes it easier for us to self-produce than maybe for some bands who don't have a clear idea of what they want to release. It also just kind of, like when we recorded our self-titled album with Pat Carney, like he only had 2.5 weeks available in his schedule to do it. So we had to record the whole thing in 2.5 weeks. So that can be, obviously it's good to add a little bit of pressure to a situation, to make sure or some kind of limits to it, I guess, to make sure you put forth your best effort. But at the same time, I think we felt like there was some stuff we would have rather, redone or maybe added or maybe added a couple different songs later. So with being able to self-produce now, like this, for Changing Colors, we recorded it in Toronto, which is where most of the band lives. And we recorded over the span of maybe 6 months or something like that, where we'd go in for a couple of weeks, take a week off or 2 weeks off, and then go in for another week, take a month off. And so you're able to kind of sit back, get a more of a sense of it as a whole. And then I think that gave us a good idea of what we needed to work on and maybe what the album was missing. And then we go in and work on that kind of stuff.
Awesome. That's awesome. So you guys have released a video for your first single off of that album. And it actually starts with German vocal, like a German lady introducing it. So like it's actually going to ask you, like, you guys seem to have like a very decent like European following. Is that something that you like enjoy? Do you guys enjoy going over to Europe, or?
We do. We actually don't have like the greatest following in Europe. It's okay in some countries and some markets, but we always, we love going over there, but we're not nearly as successful as we are in Canada. The reason why we had that German intro is because the concept of that video is just based on old kind of 60s and 70s TV performances. You see, like, there's a famous Led Zeppelin one where they're on Danish TV, or there's like excuse me, it's a band I'm thinking of. Joe Walsh's old band. The name's escaping me right now, but anyway, they're performing on James Gang. That's what it is. They're performing on German TV, and it has an intro, and that's kind of where we got the idea for that video. So we figured, gotta find someone who speaks German to give us a little intro.
Okay, that's kind of cool, because I remember watching a lot of, like, the UK shows from that, because, like, I like to watch a lot of the old, like, Thin Lizzy videos and stuff like that.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I definitely understand where that comes from.
Performance, too, that's the same type of thing, where just, like, kids, like, sitting around, like, cross-legged on the floor while they're just rocking.
Yes,
so hard for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, I love that. Just kids sitting there like it's reading time.
Yeah, and they look bored, like if they realized they were watching one of the greatest bands of all time, right? I mean, and this would be one of the few times they'd have a chance to watch them, but whatever.
No, for sure. It's like you're getting the opportunity to be on TV watching this amazing band, and it's just like, okay, I'm here.
Yeah, like Led Zeppelin only performed on TV like 3 times or something like that, and they're at one of them. I guess it was at the time of their first album, so they didn't know how big they'd be.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so we'll get into a couple other questions. Well, actually, you guys have a tour coming up. How are you excited about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we always, like I said, Canada is still our strongest market, and we're very appreciative of that, and so the Canadian tour is usually the highlight of any sort of album release cycle.
That's good.
Play the most fun shows, the craziest shows, the biggest shows and stuff like that. And we haven't been on a straight tour like that in quite a while, so it'll be exciting. Getting back into the swing of things.
That's good.
We've just been doing more sort of like one-off shows and smaller runs. So to actually go out for month and a half, I don't know, it's gonna be fun.
No, it's definitely will. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys when you get to BC and joining in on the festivities.
Yeah, where are you based out of?
I'm in Kamloops.
Oh, cool! Right on.
Yeah. So I think you guys are playing Kelowna for sure.
Yeah, Kelowna for sure. I was going to say that was probably going to be the closest one.
Yeah, I think so. So I'm pretty sure I have plans to come out for that one.
Nice, that'll be great.
Awesome, yeah. So I'll be there to shake your hand in person.
Yeah, it sounds great, man. I'll have to
awesome.
Maybe grab a beer or something.
All right, so do you have any favorite stories from the road or the years of touring and recording?
I mean, to pick one favorite one, I don't know. Like I've talked about some of the crazy stuff that's happened to us, just meeting different celebs, touring with John Fogerty and, meeting all these crazy people backstage at Petty Fest. Okay, well, here's another one. Like I just mentioned this awesome Free video from the 70s where they're, it's like kids are just sitting cross-legged on the floor and stuff. But anyway, so the singer of Free, Paul Rogers, also singing for Bad Company and whatnot. Sort of, I think right after the contest, somewhere around that time, we got an opportunity to play a couple songs with him on stage. Like he was actually singing. We were his backup band. So we did 3 free songs. We did like I'll Be Creepin' and All Right Now, which is one of the all-time great rock songs, right? And so to be able to play
doubt.
With him on stage, singing, and he still sounds like unbelievably good. Like, so good. So much power. His voice sounds amazing. He's obviously taking very good care of himself. And then another interesting thing about that event is, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something in Toronto. Is that Jimmy Boskill, who was our guitarist, he was working backstage at that event as a tech.
Huh.
So he was there and he watched it, but we didn't know him at the time, and we wouldn't actually meet him for another 5 years.
Wow.
So it's kind of cool how that worked out.
That's very cool how that worked out.
Yeah.
Do you have any must-have item for when you are on the road?
I don't know about like a certain must-have item. I think one that's sort of a must for me for this upcoming tour is just maybe like take a little bit better care of myself. We've definitely had some tours, especially when we first started, where, you know, we'd be pretty wild. Getting a little older now.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I was talking about in 2011, we were super busy going from town to town and didn't have enough time to reflect. I think part of that was just, you know, we're not getting enough sleep and, you know, partying too hard, and which is, you know, there's nothing wrong with partying or anything, but
no, but there's a time and a place, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was just getting another call.
No worries.
But yeah, so I think that, and you know, we're getting a little older now, and I think we want to, you know, I think we realize that to be at our best for all these shows, we need to just maybe dial it back slightly.
Yeah, definitely.
I know it's not the most rock and roll thing to say in the world, but it's true. And then when you see, I was just talking about Paul Rogers. If he had partied as hard as, you know, Jim Morrison his whole life, you know, he wouldn't sound good or he'd be dead, right? So I think we want to have long careers in the music industry, and to do that, you know, I think we realize we have to just, you know, take care of ourselves out there.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely have to. All right, before I ask you one last question, where can people find the Sheepdogs and you yourself?
As far as online?
Yeah.
You know, so sheepdogs.com, you know, we're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You know, me personally, I don't have a huge online presence, but
that's fair.
I guess my Twitter handle is fake Sam Corbett, or at fake Sam Corbett, but I only posted, I think, one thing in 2016. I think my New Year's resolution is to maybe get a little bit more active on social media, because it does help. You know, I don't know if it helps. I think probably helps grow the fan base a little bit, but also, you know, we want to. I think part of the great thing about this new online world, as far as music, is you can interact with your fans a little bit more, and so I think I'd like to get a little bit better at that in the new year.
It makes them feel so much more involved with what you're doing, and it makes them care so much more, I feel, sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think as a band, we do a pretty good job of that, and that's something we're always thinking about. But me personally, I could definitely do a better job.
Okay. Well, that's good. All right. One last question for you, sir. Who were your high school idols and influences?
Well, high school, I would say, you know, the two biggest ones for me were the Beatles and Stevie Wonder. You know, high school is when I started, you know, finding some of my parents' old records and stuff and putting them on and buying a couple records of my own. And, you know, it was, you know, I was getting into a lot of different types of music at the time. And back in high school, I was a little bit more into what, you know, I guess modern music than I am today. Now I'm definitely more focused on retro stuff. But I don't know. It always comes back to the big three for me are, like I said, Led Zeppelin, although I got into them a little bit more after high school, and then Beatles and Stevie Wonder. Those are the big three for me. They were when I was 19 when we started the band, and they still are today. So some things never change, I guess.
Hey, some things stay the same, and sometimes that's for the better. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's timeless music for a reason. It's, you know, it's really obviously great music, but I think it just hits certain themes that are always going to be true for people and always going to resonate with people. And I guess if I had to tie that up, that's something that we would, of course, strive for is, you know, we idolize this old retro music and we want to make music like that, but we don't want to be seen as some kind of like, you know, tribute band or, you know, or something like that, like a band that's just covering old music. We want to make music that people of today are still relating to, and hopefully people in the future will relate to too.
And is maybe just as timeless as the music of that time.
Yeah.
And hopefully
I mean, that's
be.
a pretty lofty goal. And
hey, hopefully it will be.
To be, you know, as good as the Beatles or Stevie Wonder. But I think this is something Ewan always says, is that, you know, what we try to do is, you know, we see our idols, we aim for that, fall somewhere short, and then that's what you are, right?
Hey man,
I think that's
as
what
long as you
the Beatles
shoot for the stars, You're still in space,
Yeah, right,
and that's
exactly.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Like the Beatles, they wanted to be, Elvis and Ray Charles and Buddy Holly and stuff like that. And they ended up being
Exactly.
the Beatles, which is pretty good, but, we'll just try our best
Exactly.
and see what happens.
Exactly. See what becomes the Sheepdogs. All right, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day to share some time with me. Honestly, thank you so much.
No problem, man. I really appreciate it. We don't get to do super long form interviews all that often, so it's fun to revisit some of those old memories for sure.
Hey, I love to actually get into those memories and get into people's passions. So thank you for sharing it with me.
Hey, no problem, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it as well. All right. You guys know what I'm going to do right now, right? We're going to send out a huge thank you to Sam Corbett of The Sheepdogs for taking time out of his busy day and schedule to sit down and talk with us for an hour and share with us the story of the Sheepdogs. I am extremely thankful that he was willing to do that, and I hope that you guys enjoyed the interview just as much as I did. If you want to find out more about the Sheepdogs, you can do so by going to any of the places that he listed. That being the Sheepdogs website, their Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram. You can find them all over the place. You can also see their music videos for their new song, I've Got a Hole in My Heart, or the song you heard in the middle of the show, Downtown, which came off of their album Future Nostalgia. Those music videos are all on YouTube, and you should definitely go check them out. Changing Colors drops on February 2nd, 2018, and it has 17 tracks. And if you go and pre-order it right now in iTunes, you can get it for less than $9 Canadian, which is pretty fantastic. When is the last time you bought 17 tracks for less than $8? Or if you want to pick up any of their past albums, like Future Nostalgia, which featured the song Downtown that you heard in the middle of the show, you can also cop that on iTunes or by going to their website and getting it their store tab. I also want to take a quick moment to thank Dave Stelling. Dave, you are a class act, and thank you for setting this interview up. I am extremely thankful for everything you have done for me, and I am extremely thankful that you were willing to trust me with this. So thank you, and I hope I did a good enough job. I also have to take a moment to thank you guys, the listeners of the Desert Tiger podcast, because you already know, without you, I wouldn't have the opportunity to do this. I wouldn't have the opportunity to do a lot of the things that the Desert Tiger podcast has allowed me to do, and I'm so thankful for that. In 2018, we had over 2,500 listens in over 10 different countries, in over 20 different states, and in almost every single province and territory in Canada. So thank you guys so much for spreading the word about the Desert Tiger podcast, for listening, for taking the time to subscribe, rate, and review, whether it's on iTunes, whether it's on Google Play, whether it's on Spotify. That's right, you can now listen to the Desert Tiger podcast on Spotify. Just gotta look up Spotify, or you can look up any of the individual artists, and you can find their episodes. How awesome is that? The Desert Tiger podcast is now so much easier to subscribe and listen to on the go. So if you have Spotify, go ahead and do yourself a favor and hit follow now. Alright, next week we are going to have a very special guest. We are going to be having one of the members of Daggermouth joining us. Daggermouth is a band from Vancouver, British Columbia, who struck really big in the early 2000s and decided to take a break. But they're coming back hard, and they're coming back fast, heavy, and loud. And they're coming at you. So I hope you guys are just as excited as I am for next week's interview with one of the members of Daggermouth. Alright, before we end the show, as always, you know we have to let you off with a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of a quote, a little bit of motivation to get you revved up and ready for your weekend, for what you've got ahead. And we're going to give that to you right now, baby. Success is not built on success. It's built on failure. It's built on frustration. Sometimes it's built on catastrophe. That's a quote from Sumner Redstone. Take the Sheepdogs, for example. They traveled to LA and spent a ton of money thinking that was going to be their big break. And in reality, at the same time, something else was happening that they didn't think was going to be quite as big for them. Take me, for example. I've been homeless. I've slept in my truck. Sometimes I choose to do that to make episodes of the Desert Tiger podcast now. But I'm not doing it because I have to. I've failed. But I didn't have to stay there. Don't let the things that you can't control hold you down. Rise above them and learn from them. And have yourselves a fantastic week and a fantastic weekend. And until next week, a big whoop whoop!
The Desert Tiger Podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review. iTunes, Google Play Music, and Stitcher. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thanks for listening.